بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the next section on the ism, the signs of the ism, how to identify an ism or a noun. So first and foremost, in order for us to arrive at a sound understanding of what we're reading and a sound translation of what we're reading, there are a few things that are basic, but they're extremely important to know. Among them, how to identify these types of words that we've discussed, right? The ism, the fi'l, and the harf. And in this case, of course, looking particularly at the ism, right? How to identify the ism. This is extremely important because there are a lot of prepositions and pronouns that can be attached to a word. There are also specific conditions that a word may have that can kind of throw you off in terms of what you're dealing with. Knowing how to identify the type of word you're dealing with, that's going to lead you to understanding the type of sentence that you're dealing with and its structure, its components, its parts. This is going to help you understand the status or role of a particular word within that sentence, which is also going to lead you to understand the meaning of that word in the context of this sentence. So when looking at the ism, this is the first thing that we're going to look at. How do we even identify the ism? How do we know we're looking at an ism? And so we see here, if the beginning of a word starts with al, or if a word ends with tanween as well, or ta marbuta at the end is what she finds, then know this is from the ism and its signs. So very simple, very concise, very straightforward. This is not all the signs of the ism, but these are the most major signs, the telltale signs, fail-proof signs that you're dealing with in ism. And I'll address some additional points as well, but let's look at a few examples from the Quran so that we can further elaborate on what's being said here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. We see here at the beginning this word huwa, right, which is a pronoun. And we're going to take a look at pronouns very shortly in the upcoming sections. So we're not going to worry about huwa. We're just going to focus on what was specifically mentioned in this chapter. One thing that I do want to point out though, the name Allah. So just as a quick point, this is something that is a matter of proper etiquette. So when we're talking about the name of Allah in regards to grammar, we don't say Allah is in such and such state or plays such and such role in this sentence, nor do we simply say the word Allah, right? We say lafdul jalala, the name or word of majesty or the word of magnificence, for example. So that's just a quick note here. We will get into different types of asma and their signs, where we'll speak about proper names, right? But we know if we're talking about someone from what I discussed in the examples prior, right? Zayd, Aisha, etc., we know that this is an ism. And so we know that lafdul jalala is an ism, right? It's the name of Allah. Naam. So we see here, right after this, al-khaliq, right? We see al at the beginning here. Al-khaliq, al-bari, المصور المصور له الأسماء الأسماء. So we see a lot of al at the beginning of these words. Very clear identification that this is an ism that we're dealing with. Al-husna Al-husna يسبح له ما في السماوات. If you remember, we spoke about fi, the word fi, meaning in, right? When I gave you a few examples of the huruf in the beginning, fi samawati, in the heavens. So we see here at the beginning, as-samawat, wal-ard, al-ard, the earth, wa huwa al-azizu, al-aziz, the almighty or all-powerful, al-hakim, the all-wise, al at the beginning, right? So we see here al at the beginning of all of these words, very clear indication that these are asma, right? Let's take a look at another example here. ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء. Okay, so we see here ألم تر كيف ضرب الله, we already spoke about لفظ الجلالة. مثلا, so we see here فتحتين. So we said if there's al at the beginning, or there is tanween at the end, these are signs of an ism. So مثلا, kalimatan, kalimatan. But there's two signs here. So we said if there's al at the beginning, we said if there's tanween at the end, and we also said if there's a ta marbuta at the end, right? So this has two signs, kalimatan, tayyibatan, tayyibat, fathatain, but also ta marbuta at the end. Shajaratin, a tree, shajaratin. We see this ta marbuta again at the end, and we also see tanween, right? Kasratain, tayyibatin, again, same thing here, right? We've seen this word already before. Two signs, right? The ta marbuta and the kasratain. Thabitun. So we see here again, tanween, dhammatain. Very clear signs that these are asma. And again, we see here as-sama'i. Very clear signs that these are asma. Now I just want to unpack a few very important things about each of these signs. The first thing that you'll notice, if you haven't noticed it already, when you go back to these ayat, and we're going to take a look at a few more examples, you'll notice that if you find al at the beginning of a word, the ending never has tanween, right? And if you find tanween at the ending of a word, then the beginning never has al. So this is an important rule, right? You will never see them together. That's the first thing to point out, which leads to the second very important point. Al at the beginning of a word signifies that it's definite, whereas tanween at the ending of a word signifies that it is indefinite. What does that mean? For example, kitabun, a book, versus al-kitabu, the book. Qalamun, a pen, versus al-qalamu, the pen. Right? I'm talking about something specific here. So that's a very important distinction to make, that you will never find al and tanween together, and also they signify that a word is either definite or indefinite. So the third important thing to note here about what we've covered so far, so we see here, if ta marbuta at the end is what she finds, then no, this is from the ism and its signs. The ta marbuta, which is this round ta with the two dots above it, it actually signifies that this word is feminine. So it's also referred to as the feminine ta. Okay, so that's why it says here, if ta marbuta at the end is what she finds, just to kind of make it easy to remember that this signifies that a word is feminine. So an important note in this regard is that a feminine word is of two types. There are feminine words that are feminine in origin. They're intrinsically feminine. And then there are words that are grammatically feminine. They're treated feminine grammatically. Now, the way that you identify whether a word is feminine intrinsically in origin is whether it lays eggs or gives birth. If it lays eggs or gives birth, it's feminine in origin. Any words that fall outside of this distinction, they're only treated feminine grammatically, whether it has a ta marbuta at the end or not. So for example, like the word asa, a staff, like the staff of Musa alayhi salam, it's a word that's treated feminine grammatically, but it doesn't lay eggs or give birth. So it's just treated feminine grammatically. And you can apply this to any word again, whether it has ta marbuta or not, and we'll see this going forward, maybe in the next stage of covering Arabic grammar, looking at a text like the Mulha. We'll take a look at the significance of these two categories of feminine words. But for now, for our purposes in the stage we're at, understanding this is sufficient. So let's continue on. Sal bani Israel kam ataynahum min ayatin bayyina ومن يبدل نعمة الله من بعد ما جاءته فإن الله شديد العقاب. Bani Israel, this is a particular fragment. Both of these words are asma. We're going to take a look at these specific cases going forward. Everything will come together slowly but surely, inshallah. So, كم آتيناهم min ayatin. Now we probably can't tell because this little meme right here, this is actually kasratain, right? It's tanween at the end. So ayatin, and we also see the ta marbuta as well, right? So two signs. So we also know the word ayah is feminine as well. وَمَن يُبَدِّلْ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ. This is a type of fragment, again, that we're going to learn going forward. But we see here very clearly that there is a ta marbuta at the end of this word, ni'mah. And so we know this word is an ism. And we know that this word is also treated feminine grammatically. What we don't see here is an L at the beginning. And though there is no L at the beginning, we also don't see tanween at the end, because something else is happening here. And this is another important note to make. The only time there is no L at the beginning and no tanween at the end is if something external is happening. Maybe there's a pronoun attached. Maybe there's a harf before it. Something is going on, and we're going to look at all of these different factors that can result in a word, an ism, not having al at the beginning and not having tanween at the end. But this is an exception, not the rule. The rule is al or tanween. So something is going on here, and inshallah we're going to take a look at that. Again, that's something very important to note and that we're going to dive into further inshallah going forward. Naam. So min ba'di ma ja'athu fa inna Allah shadidul iqab. So we see here al iqab. Let's show this right here. So you also see here al at the beginning, no tanween at the end. So I mentioned that there are other signs as well, but these are the main ones. And there are some signs that require some further explanation as to some external factors that may be impacting the word. And so that's why they're not mentioned here. But another sign that I've included here, just as something additional, an additional benefit you can say, is the word ya. Like ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. We call this harf nida. حرف نداء يا قومي يا نوح يا محمد, right? And we see here in this example, this is actually separate, right? This is actually separate. يا أرض, right? يا أرض. And this is a sign, this harf nida here is a sign that what comes after it is an ism. So the earth here, Ya Ard. We see here as well, Ya Sama'u. So as you can also see here, there's no al at the beginning and there's no tanween at the end. So this must be also a specific or special case where there's an exception. Maybe we'll get into the exceptions for the harf nida as well, but I did not include that in this book. Again, this is not a be-all end-all course. There are some things that I did not include in the book because I feel like they're things that should be discussed once your foundation in what is essential and absolutely necessary is established. Otherwise, we can be learning grammar rules, forever. Like it will never end, right? And a lot of times that's the problem actually. We're just learning more and more grammar rules that will never end. And that's not how we learn the English language. It was something gradual. Some of us are still learning aspects of the English language as adults, right? So imagine the Arabic language, imagine the language of the Quran, right? That's not how we learned English, where we just kind of went to school and learned grammar all day. No, we read specific books that, had to do with the level that we were at that time, and concepts were introduced to us slowly and gradually. And because we're adults, and like I said, many of us are coming to the Arabic language as adults, we feel like, I'm not reading children's books, and we want to pick up some tafasir immediately and these types of things. And there's a process. And so my advice to you is be patient, trust the process, take some time out. Each of us should have a wird of the Quran that we do daily, even if it's just one page that we read minimum, finding a sound translation that we connect with if we don't know the Arabic language on that level, and reading the meanings, but also start implementing these things that you're learning. With that one page a day that you read, if that's what you read, go through that page and point out and start identifying some of these asma and start identifying these different things that you're learning. And as we progress through the text, you'll see how everything comes together holistically, inshallah. So that's the end of this lesson here. May Allah Ta'ala enable us to benefit from what we were able to cover today. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.